So why don't you start with just telling me a little bit about yourself and what you've experienced this past year?
This year has been eye-opening, very eye-opening. I haven't really been a yo-yo dieter. I was always, growing up, my mom was a yo-yo dieter. Growing up, we watched her go from, she's like 5 foot tall, and she would go from like 200 pounds to 100 pounds in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
She did Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, everything under the face of the planet. And as kids, we thought that was normal. Mm-hmm. And so growing up, we all were very, very thin and very, very active. I was very active in sports, but I was so conscious about what I put in my body, but not about more of like how much I was putting in my body, but not about what I put in my body. So I never learned a proper relationship with food. Mm-hmm. And when I was 18, I got into a relationship with a man that he kind of fed me. And I think he fed me to keep me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about that a lot, actually.
Yeah. And I went from when we met, I was a very fit, 115 pounds. I ran, I did all this stuff. I rock climbed. And over the years, I got up to 200 pounds. And when we moved to Hawaii, I was like 195 and I was miserable. And I didn't realize how miserable I was. I was in a horrible job, which actually brought me here. So I can't say it was that horrible. It was a career I didn't want to be in. I kind of forced myself into it more for financial reasons. Mm-hmm. And it was a very toxic relationship that I just kept feeding. And I had no idea at the time I was feeding my relationship, and he was feeding me, and he would encourage me to just eat and eat and eat and eat. And I had no idea how unhealthy that was. Mm-hmm. And one day I just kind of woke up and said, I'm in a horrible relationship, and I'm in a horrible relationship with myself. And I got a trainer, and I started exercising, and I realized I needed to leave him. And I left him, and I thought I got really healthy, but I actually didn't. I wasn't eating properly. I was working out 6 times a week, sometimes 4 to 5 hours a day. I was paddling. Like I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I'd go paddle for 2 hours. I'd go to work, then I'd go to the gym, and I was like eating like so much food and drinking and partying and like doing everything. And I looked good-ish, I thought at the time, but I was so unhealthy. Like I think I was ready to crash at any minute. And then one day I kind of woke up and realized I left a really toxic relationship, but I was still in a toxic relationship with my job. So I one day walked into work, and I got into the biggest fight with the owner of the clinic I worked in. And we basically butted heads. And I walked out. And I said, that's it. I'm going to go become a photographer. It's what I went to college for photography as well. And I kind of put it to the side because my ex-husband was a photographer, and I kind of let him have those reins. And I kind of started trying to find myself. And I started partying a lot and, doing all the things that I kind of knew I shouldn't be, but I did. I met my boyfriend, and he was a chef, and, that led into, I was bartending and trying to do photography and the late night drinking, and I gained all the way back. Almost to 200 pounds. I was like 190 something. I'm not quite sure the exact number, like 192, 195. And last June he woke up and he said, no more, I'm done drinking. And he stopped. And for 6 months I watched him because I wasn't sure he was ready or he was going to do it. And then in January of last year, I said, I'm done too. And I stopped drinking, and I wanted to find a diet. And in my brain, I thought, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to go on this diet. I'm going to lose weight, and that's going to be it. I'm going to change my life. And at the time, that's what I really thought I was doing. And I researched all this stuff. He went on a different path, and I found whole food plant-based. And I had been vegetarian at certain points in my life, but never really looked into veganism. I've never really loved meat. It was never like a big thing for me. So it was easy to give up. I'm lactose intolerant. I have celiac disease. So it was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I joined every Facebook group I could find and found a more toxic relationship. And like slowly I was like, leave this group. And then I found your group. And one day it clicked, like, I don't want to be on a diet for the rest of my life. Like I love the way I'm eating. Like I love this food. I love eating food. And then, wow, I don't feel gross after I eat. Like I have energy. Like this is fuel. Like this food is doing something to my body that food has never done. Like it's giving me like hope. It's the energy. It's giving me life. And I never had that relationship with food. Food to me was something that I would shove in my mouth and it would numb me. And it was like a drug. And the more I could put in and the grosser and more disgusting it was, the better I would feel. And then I would just put more and more and more in. But I really wasn't feeling good. I didn't understand the chemical imbalance that it was creating in my brain. And it took about maybe 4 to 5 months into being a whole food plant-based for my brain and my body to realize like, wow, like you can do this and you can do this for the rest of your life. And then it just clicked, like I'm not on a diet. I stopped looking at weight loss as weight loss and I started looking as gaining my life back. I can now move my body better. It didn't magically make every health problem I have go away. I think that no matter what you do, your body's still going to rebel every once in a while. I did break my back in July. I do have osteoporosis, and that was a long-term side effect of having celiac disease. So I'm working on getting that better. I'm doing some things. I have some neurological issues that nothing will fix. No matter how many plants I eat, like they're still there. My brain is wired. There's some things that, you just, no matter what you do, they're still going to be there. So, which is okay. And I've accepted that. I've learned to accept things about myself that normally I would be like a rageaholic about. And now I'm like, you know what? This is my body. I have to love it no matter what. And I have to be okay that there's some things I can't do. And I mean, that's kind of, what has kept me going. I have learned that I've really rejected processed foods. And I found that sugar is like my devil. It gives me heartburn. It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel slumpy. It makes me feel gross. And it's just this, it's like a drug for me. And that was the biggest addiction I'd ever given up. Alcohol was a breeze. Like that was like, like you're out of my life. You're never coming back. Like there's no reason to ever bring me back. I never want to feel the way that alcohol made me feel because I can make myself feel really, really good.
The thing about drinking is you can not drink and you can decide to never drink again and that's fine. But like the thing with eating is like, we have to eat. And so it's a different thing. It's a whole different like game. And the thing about sugar is, you can take the obvious sugar out of your life, but even then, you still got to be really careful. And if you're eating any kind of packaged foods, even if they're vegan, sugar will be in there. So you have to really be careful with that. And if you're the type of person that just can't have any, then you just can't have any. And you have to be really diligent about making every single thing that you eat, right? Which is what this whole way of eating is about anyway. So that works. But I think that it's really, I think that your like whole journey is amazing. And what I really find fascinating about it, and I think that a lot of people will be able to relate to, is that you went into it for like one reason, and about 6 months in, you're like, oh, your whole world just kind of opened up, and you didn't know what you were going to gain from simply like eating the right food.
And it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like, and I see that all the time. And it's like, okay, I started this because I need to get off this cholesterol medication, or because I need to lose 50 pounds, or because, and then all of a sudden those things will eventually happen, but it becomes like this added bonus that it happened, and not like the reason why people keep going with this way of eating, which is why it's so sustainable, because you're like, as you told beautifully, like your relationship with food is now happy and easy.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like I look at things in a package and I'm like, I don't need you. I don't want you. Like you're drugs. Like, the freezer section's like a drug dealer. Like, and that's how I look at it. I'm like, there is something to be said about walking around those outer aisles of the grocery store. You don't need to walk down the middle aisles. Condiments, yes. That's about it. I mean, sometimes
some vinegars or,
searching for those random little, we're condiment junkies. I'm definitely hot sauce junkie, but even like, reading the little labels, I have special glasses I bring to the grocery store just to read the labels.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If it's not coming from the bulk bin or from the produce section, then reading those labels, that's what it's all about, regardless of what the package says. It's like, so, and you're clued up. You've been in our community now has it been a year? It was just a year recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're clued up on all of that. Now, I think it's interesting that you said after about 6 months, your brain kind of clicked in that said, oh, this isn't a diet. And isn't it fascinating how even if we're doing something and we're feeling the positive benefits from it and we're enjoying it, our brain is still kind of like lagging behind where it was. Like it takes a while for, like you said, the brain to catch up with like, and saying, oh, it's okay to eat and not have this be a diet. And I think that it's when people are brand new to this, one thing that I hear often is like, I tried it for a few weeks and it just wasn't, it wasn't for me because I they just don't give it time for it all to click into place. And there's definitely for everybody, regardless of the way that they ate before, how long they've been eating like this, like what I find is there's always that thing, that aha moment where it just clicks and you're like, oh, I got it. It's okay to eat. Like I'm eating to help. Like it's all about eating.
Yeah. You have to eat. I mean, we need to fuel our bodies. You have to put gas in your car. You have to put, oil in your house to heat it. You have to pay your electric bill. You need fuel. You need, power.
Yeah.
And the better the power you can put in your body, the better you are.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, you have to look at it that way. I mean, if you put junk in your body, you're going to give back junk. And that's kind of how I have to look at it for my own personal well-being. And I have to live by that. Yeah. I mean, we have pretty much a rule in our house. Like, our freezer is basically for smoothie prep and, there's half of it's Omni and half of it's My World. And, it's just nothing really lives in a package anymore. It's kind of nice. I think the trash guy wants to know what's going on.
Right.
We only put our bin out like every other week now, where it used to go out like bulging full every, twice a week. And now it's like every other week. We still give the garbage guy a case of beer at Christmas time and he still loves it. But I mean, the past 6 months, I know he's been going like, what's going on with him? Like,
isn't that interesting? And how that ties into like, okay, not only by doing this, are you saving money and saving your body, but like you produce less waste.
Oh, so much less waste.
Like there's so many little added benefits that keep popping up the more you go through this, that you're like, oh, well, that's a positive thing. That's a positive thing. And all of a sudden they're like, well, you're like, there are no negative things really. I mean,
no, there really isn't. I mean, our food doesn't go bad. It doesn't go to waste. I mean, even doing dishes is so much easier. I know there's a lot more pots and pans, but they're easier to clean.
Because it doesn't have the oil that's like sticking on everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, not having oil kind of grosses me out now. I'm like, ooh, like it's just gross.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing, isn't it? Like at first you're like, this is weird cooking without it. And then you get used to it and you're like, no, it's kind of actually strange cooking with it.
In this past year, I used to wake up every morning before losing the weight, and I've had chronic knee pain, and I used to have elbow pain and wrist pain. I had broken my finger and had half my hand removed. Parts of the bones in my hand were gone. I had to have reconstructive nerve surgery on my whole arm, and I'd wake up every day in this like cramped, horrible position, and that's all gone. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I can use my hands fully functionally now. I mean, I have arthritis in more parts of my body than I'd care to explain, and all of that's gone. Like all of my arthritic little crunkiness is gone. Everything moves and flows and moves freely. I have always had high cholesterol, and that really hasn't budged. It is genetic in my bloodstream, unfortunately. So I do have it checked periodically, and it just stays right there hovering at this like midline level where my doctor is okay with, it's not at a medication point, but it's not where I would love it to be. Mm-hmm. One thing I found very interesting was before all of this, I used to have B12 shots. No matter what, I could not absorb B12. Mm-hmm. And now I take one daily multivitamin that has B12 in it, and my B12 the last time it was checked was 912. Which is better than when I ate meat.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard of that happening as well.
I think it's amazing. I actually absorb all of my nutrients now, whereas before I never did. I had serious malabsorption problems. I had gastroparesis. I used to use the bathroom 15 to 20 times a day. I now have one healthy bowel movement every day, like clockwork every morning, which I don't think I ever have had that in my life. I've always had a very unhappy gut. I've always had problems with acid reflux and indigestion. That's all completely gone, which is amazing to me. The biggest thing, which sounds really crazy, is I've been battling plantar fasciitis for years and years and years. And I can now wear any pair of shoes I want. And without even having, I got the coolest pair of running shoes. And I mean, I have had to like, go and buy special this and special. I can wear any shoe that I want.
Wow.
I've become more aware of my posture. I've become more aware of my body, and the things that I do to my body, how I sit, how I even watch TV. We cut down on TV time. Actually, we've cut down on screen time. We've just become. I personally become so aware of everything that I do that affects me negatively versus falling into slumps. I'd come home for a shoot and I used to throw my bag down and just go and lay on the couch and just go. And now it's like I come home and I dump my cards and I like get in my rhythm, start making my dinner. We put on music and, we read. Like, who are we? We started enjoying life again.
Yeah.
And I haven't enjoyed life in a really long time. Happiness, like there's so much happiness in our world and there hasn't been a lot of happiness for a really long time. The relationships that I have with my family now are really, really joyful. My brother-in-law died 2 years ago at 45 of a massive heart attack. And I remember when I was with her when we got the death certificate and morbid obesity was like blinking at us. And I remember her looking at me and just kind of giving me this look, and the look in her face was like, she didn't want to say it, but she was like, you're morbidly obese. Like, I could just feel it. And now it's like, she doesn't look at me like that anymore. And that's really cool. It's like this feeling of, hey, I need you around. Like, I've already lost one of the most important people in my life. Can't lose you either. So it's just rebuilding relationships that I feel like I knocked down over the years. Moving to Hawaii was my escape. Especially with my ex-husband. Like, it's like my family knew how toxic that relationship was. So I just packed up and moved here, figuring they'd just leave me alone about it. And then when he left, I stayed. And so I kind of felt like I was hiding from everyone. And now I don't hide from them. I go home a lot and visit.
It's so cool though. That's so cool that what happens when we build our relationship with ourselves first. And like, we find that love for ourselves and we nurture ourselves and we do what we have to do for ourselves. And then what happens like as an extension of that, it's like all of a sudden you're building and strengthening relationships all around you. And that can really only happen when, sorry, I forgot to turn my phone down. Hold on.
I just thought there never to turn it off.
I know. Okay. So that can only really happen when we start with ourselves, and when we work on ourselves, then all of a sudden things can open up. And it's incredible. And who knew that eating plants was a gateway to that?
Yeah.
I love it because the whole thing with like, I know that you've lost a bunch of weight and I know that you've gotten healthier physically and that's like all part of it. But it's like that relationship with food, relationship with how you're treating yourself, relationship with kind of how you live your life. I mean, that's like the part that most people who are new to this don't realize, or people who aren't doing this way of eating and thinking that, well, a plant-based diet, that's just, this new thing that's popular now and, whatever. It's like so much more than that. So I love that you are sharing all these positive things that have stemmed from this just metamorphosis that you've gone through.
I mean, we look at our business and I run numbers all the time and we are 103% busier than we were last year, which is like crazy.
Yeah. And that is no coincidence. I mean, that's really it. And that's exactly what happened with our business too. I mean, you can see if you put it on a chart, it's like the month I quit drinking and started taking care of myself and started to get really serious about what I'm putting in my body, it's like our numbers started to climb and they haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And it's like that is no coincidence.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And one of the reasons why, I mean, there was a lot of reasons why I needed to quit drinking because I just needed to, but it was also like, I just knew that I wasn't living at my potential. I knew that I had so much to give myself, so much to give my family, so much more to give the community because we already had a Clean Food Dirty Girl community, that we had started years ago. And I was like, I am just curious to see where this all can go and what I can do if I really get my shit together. Because I knew it was so much more, and there you have it. It's and
You're
yeah.
amazing. Like you're like this little, you're an amazing goddess. Like your man and your whole team are just unbelievable.
We
Unbelievable.
have an amazing team. Yeah, I'm so happy for you that you had, went from this life tired that was tired in so many ways, right? And you've gone through these changes and just arrived. And it's not easy. I know that it's not always easy. And especially when you're first starting out, it can be really scary to let go of those things that you found so much comfort in for so many years. I mean, that can be a really tough transition.
Oh yeah. I used to be a middle of the night eater. Like I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I would go open the fridge and I would just start eating and eating and eating and eating. And I'd wake up and I'd have like crumbs all over me and like food on my face when I got up in the morning. And I'd be like, what did I do in the middle of the night? And sometimes I'd wake up and there'd be like food next to my bed. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, that's just crazy talk. Like that's just crazy. And I mean, I haven't done that in so long. It's unbelievable, or even thought about doing that. Like it's weird. And I think food was such it was like my psychiatrist, and I don't need that anymore. It's really unbelievable.
And food is a shitty psychiatrist. Shitty food is anyways.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you worse.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to hide food from him. I mean, I would go buy, bags of chips and cookies and just gross snacks. And I'd like hide them throughout the house so that he didn't know how much I really was eating. And bottles of wine would get stashed in places, or I'd drink them and then like, go throw them away in the neighbor's trash can so that he didn't know how much I drank that day, because I was kind of embarrassed. Like, oh no, I'm not drunk. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, who am I fooling? Like, closet alcoholic here, closet cookie eater. Like, and it's like, and I don't even like, those desires are gone. Like, it's just gone, because you had the joy versus pleasure. And it's like, wow, that was it. It's like, and now I just constantly remind myself of that. Like life is joyful.
And when you reach that place of joy, it's like, that's freedom as well. Like, and how, and how awesome is it that you're now not tied to hiding shit like that, because that takes a lot of strategy, that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of coordination, that takes a lot of planning, and it's like time that we don't even have, that we're like, it's just, and when we can be free of that, my God, what a weight off your shoulders.
Oh yeah. A beach day used to be like, okay, where are we going to go get beer? Mm-hmm. Like, where can we find the beer that I like? Okay, do we have the cooler? Okay, we need to get ice. And like, there's 2 hours of a beach day gone just getting alcohol. Yeah. And then get to the beach and it's like, okay, I got to have like 3 drinks before I can go in the ocean. And then, okay, now this isn't fun anymore. Let's just sit on the beach and drink beer all day. Yeah. And then now it's like, okay, let's just get up and go to the beach and, let's go have fun and let's actually enjoy it. And it's just like so much more fun. Like everything is fun now. Like nothing is like, I mean, we don't have to plan to do anything. We just do. Like we just go, and that's even better.
That's right. You don't have to plan your alcohol consumption. You don't have to plan your, what crappy food you're going to take, or not plan. Actually, the food part is just not planning, because you just drive through someplace and grab something, right? So now it's just like you have to plan your healthy snacks, and that's about it.
Exactly. There's always something made. Like we always make sure, both of us always make sure that there's at least 1 or 2 meals that we can grab and go and that's the, I'd say, like, I'm trying to think if there's anything processed in our house. Wild brine is like my new addiction. I'm addicted to all of their sauerkrauts. I just bought the Madras curry and cauliflower sauerkraut, which is pretty amazing.
That doesn't count as processed. That's like fermented. That doesn't even count.
No cream cheese. We do share that, but even a lot of stuff like that we do buy. And actually that's probably the only thing that we bought to try to figure out how to make it. Yeah. Like, how can we make this? All right, it's almonds. It's just almonds. We can do this.
Yeah, totally. And you think about, okay, well, if that's the worst thing you're eating, like, okay, compare that. That would have been the best thing you were eating from before, right? So you always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just little tiny things like that. But other than that,
And that's why this is sustainable, though, because you can't like restrict and tell yourself like, no, I can't have that. I mean, you have to give yourself the freedom to eat and to play and to, kind of wanting that. Okay, well, let's see what, like, I want cream cheese. Okay, well, how can I make that fit this way of living and this way of eating? And and that's exactly why people can not stay on it because you're not on anything, but just keep going and have this be your way of life and have this be your lifestyle and have this and not even think about it and just do it. It's like so far from a diet. It's like not even in the same galaxy.
Yeah, it's just life. It's like, what do for me, opening a package and pulling something out, we have a microwave in our carport and we use it for industrial projects. Like food isn't even allowed in there anymore. It's for like melting resin and stuff like that. Like it's just for surfboard stuff. But it's, the whole like opening a package and the waste and that for me, it's so much easier to like eat an apple or eat a banana or, just grab
and it's
some
faster, I mean,
so much faster to eat plants.
Yeah. And then you just feel so good after. And it's like, but it's just like, you have to get to that point where you enjoy that, where you really enjoy that. Because if people are trying to eat apples and eating a really crappy diet, but they're going to try to eat an apple, that apple is not going to be enjoying for them. It's going to be like, they're on this, like only the super hyper palatable foods are going to bring them any amount of pleasure. And then anything that's not hyper palatable is going to be like, well, that was shitty. And so no wonder they think veggies and fruit aren't good because they're used to packaged, processed, high fat, fat, sugar, and salt foods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My dad is from Mexico and he is going to turn 88 this year. And he's really, really, really awesome. And he was raised, his family had a tequila farm. So agave to him is sugar. Like that's, for him, that's how you eat sugar. But he didn't believe in cans or packages either. Like, so growing up, he made all of the beans from scratch. Everything was from scratch. And I didn't realize like he was pretty plant-based. And my parents are divorced, so I didn't live with my dad too much, but not necessarily plant-based, but everything he made was wholesome and good. And there was a lot of meat, but he didn't eat chicken or he didn't eat any poultry at all. He was very much like a pork or a meat person, but he was a food pyramid person. So you have to have vegetables and you have to have fruit and you have to have grains and you have to have, some type of protein. And for him, I can remember going to Mexico one year and we kind of were forced to eat fast food. And I remember watching him eat it, just being disgusted. I'm like, Dad, this is so good. Because for us, it was a treat. And he's like, this is horrible. Like, we're putting gross stuff in our body. And like, it wasn't until now that I realized, like, wow, like my dad knew something. Like
he was onto something.
And even now, like, I mean, he's 88 years old. And I mean, he's doing really, really good. And,
there you go.
Still eats like that. I mean, yeah, he does love Snickers bars. I mean, he'll totally speak for my stepmom because he's really not supposed to eat them at all. But I mean, he has always really made. I mean, to this day, he makes all his food from scratch. It's just that's just how you do it.
That's right. I mean, we've gotten so far removed from that, but it's like that's how it used to be done. Like that's how people used to know how to cook, and that's one reason why it's so important. The work that Clean Food Dirty Girl is doing is just like, if nothing else, to teach people how to get in their kitchen and how to make a pot of beans or a pot of soup or a batch of rice. Because it's like, even though it's a really simple thing, is people are just like, how do I do it?
It's easy.
It's easy, and it's so easy, and we need to get back to being in our kitchen because that's, when we take responsibility for our health, then we have to, make, eat the salads and make the soup and make that stuff. And it's so empowering. Like what you gain from that isn't just a pot of soup and some beans. It's like feeling kick ass and like you can do this and you can take care of yourself. And, it's an amazing thing.
You look at the way architecture was back in like the 20s and the 30s, homes were built around a kitchen. And the homes are now being brought back to that. But it's like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, kitchens were like tucked away.
You're right. Yeah, I've never thought about that.
Microwaves built in everything, so they were more convenient. But real old homes, it was all about the kitchen, and then a home was built around it, and that's where you lived, was your kitchen, because that's where everything happened. Yeah. And it's like, I believe that the 60s, 70s, and 80s kind of screwed us. It cheated us out of what we needed in life. And, I'm the child of the 70s and 80s. And it's like, we were raised on the convenience and the microwave, especially with my mom. But it's just, I feel cheated in a way. Like I wish, I look at my grandparents' house where the kitchen was the center of life. It was the heart of their house.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather designed and built his house,
Mm.
and he built a home around his kitchen. And I mean, my aunt now lives in his house, and she just remodeled the kitchen, and that's where everybody lives and gathers, and the whole world is the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people need to realize is that's the heart of your home. If you don't treat your heart good, then the rest of your home is going to kind of fail.
Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy.
And that's how we are in our home. I mean, we live in a really old plantation house, and so it hasn't been remodeled since 73. So we're pretty sure that our kitchen counters are floor tiles, but we still I mean, we make it work. And, I see people kind of bummed about their kitchens. Just make them work. Like, just figure out what you can. We have all these mismatched pieces in our kitchen, and we just start putting furniture in there that doesn't belong, but it works.
Yeah.
And we have the Vitamix counter now, and we have, this counter for this, and it works. And it just, that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do. I mean, I've had some ridiculously small kitchens before, and you just make it, you just make it work. As long as you have like a cooking space and a small little prep space and, a small fridge, like you can do this. It's not complicated at all. And you don't need fancy equipment. There are plenty of gadgets you can buy, but you don't need to, my tofu press is like, heavy plates put on top of the tofu. It's like I could buy a tofu press, but I
bought one of those and I hate that. I hate
that. Interesting.
I really don't. It's like it looks like 2 cutting boards with screws and wing nuts. That thing's horrible. It doesn't work well at all. And I keep wanting to like modify it, and I'm just going to throw it away one day and go back to like my cast iron pans on top of tofu, because that worked way better than spending money on this stupid little device that I don't think actually works well.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know about that.
I'll be honest, I can't live without my Vitamix. That thing gets used at least 5 times a day. So,
yeah. Isn't that interesting? I mean, and the Vitamix, it's expensive, but if you think about it, you use it like, and I know I use mine twice a day, like minimum, like a daily thing. So yes, I spent a few $100s on it, but like I'm getting more out of that than I get practically out of my car. If somebody is watching this and they're like brand new to this and they're thinking about making a switch, they're not sure and they're kind of scared, like what would you tell them, or what would you tell yourself like a year ago before you started this? Like after everything you've learned this past year?
Be patient. Be patient, and be patient with yourself, and don't give up on yourself. Just don't give up, because it is worth it. I mean, there is a transition period. I mean, the first couple months sucked. I mean,
talk about that. Tell me about your first couple of months and how you experienced that.
After a while, I hated salad. I didn't want to see another salad for a really long time. I was like, screw you, salad, you suck. Like, I mean, you're just, if I like have to put another big mouthful of greens in my mouth, like with just, and I no matter how many dressings I made, I hated them all. And this is really before I got into your menus and your recipes and your meal plans. Like I hated everything I found. I was just putting hot sauce on my salads, going, ugh, like this is awful. I just started juicing or not juicing, but making smoothies out of all my salads. And that actually helped a lot. I was like, I'm just going to smoothie them. And then one plant-based diet or whole food plant-based group said that making smoothies out of salads was the worst thing you could do to your salad, and that you're cheating yourself out of all the nutrients. And then I got really confused. So there is a lot of information out there, and some of it's correct and some of it's not. Trust whole food plant-based. Trust it. Know that. I mean, and I do see a lot of people say, I'm not losing weight. In the beginning, I didn't either. And I was losing, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it. I didn't know. What I did know was that I felt better. Yeah. And it's more of a, you have to just let it all go. You just have to let it go. You have to be in the moment every day and know that you're doing something for yourself. You're not doing it for your boyfriend. You're not doing it for your family. You're not doing it for your friends. You're not doing it for anyone else but you. And if somebody else is your motivation, then you need to look into why. Why are they motivating you? Because you need to be motivating you. And once you kind of get into that mindset, it makes it a lot easier. Once you start using your recipes, and it makes it way easier because you guys have flavor, like serious flavor. And it's finding food that you like. I do have a very happy palate. Like I have always liked a wide variety of food. So that did make it easy. So researching foods that you like. And I was finding, this is going to sound weird, but don't try to find substitutes for foods that you love, because that only makes it worse. If you love pizza, don't try to make a whole food plant-based pizza, because you won't like it.
In the beginning. Yeah.
In the beginning. Like now there's tons of whole food plant-based pizzas that I make and I love.
Yeah.
But in the beginning you won't love it. Like don't try to make a whole food plant-based Taco Bell burrito, because you're not going to love it. I mean, don't try to, the reason you're doing this is to change your relationship with food. So trying to make an Oreo out of a whole food plant-based Oreo is not going to work.
Right.
Like, it's just not. Like, and it's you have to break up with food in a way. You have to break up with bad food, and you have to really teach yourself what good food manners are, and how to eat well, and not to, I don't like these Beyond Burgers and things like that. Like, for me, not eating meat is not eating meat. I don't want to eat something that tastes like meat personally. Because I don't want to eat meat, So and not to knock anybody that likes things like that, but I think that helps. Like, just get away from anything that's trying to be something that it's not, because you're not trying to be something that you're not. So don't try to eat something that it's not, if that makes sense.
Just to back up 1 second, I think that through this process of like the Oreo is a perfect example, like making a plant-based Oreo. If you just like let that go, and I love when you said just let it go. It's like, yes, just let go of like trying, right? With everything, trying to lose weight, trying to do this, and just go with it. But like the more you do this, the less you'll want that Oreo. And so getting to that point where you don't feel like you even, like, it's not even, you don't think about it because it's not even on your radar. It's not even in your mind. Like, that's the point that I think once you reach that point of not even thinking about that Oreo, that's where we're trying to get to. And in the beginning, by, I think that there's a few different types of people though. There's going to be the type of people who that Beyond Meat burger is going to be really helpful because, or like a vegan hot dog is going to be really helpful because a carrot dog just isn't going to cut it. And there's going to be people that I've seen that are just fucking frustrated that they're not eating a hot dog and they're eating a carrot. You know what I mean? So, and everybody is different. And so for you, like, I think like just being patient in the beginning and knowing that your taste will change, like that's such an important thing to know that most people don't realize that taste buds change and adapt. And okay, so let me ask you this. Do you now enjoy salads?
I love salad.
See, there you
go. I
love
my salad. Oh my gosh. I get a little weird about salad. There's a place on the south side called Fork and Salad, and you can basically like create your own salad. I bring my own dressing, but I mean, I love going there. It's like Candyland for me. And I'm so excited. I'm like, Fork and Salad time, because it's like a place I can go and eat out and be like comfortable eating out, and like not like be like, well, I can't have this and I can't have that. I'm like, I can have that. I can have that. I can have that. I can have that. Like, it's really fun and it's cool. And now the cool thing about the Oreo is the thought of an Oreo kind of makes me nauseous now. Like, I would never want to put an Oreo in my body. And I would never say that a year ago at all. Like, ever.
So, yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it's such your fundamental beliefs about food have changed.
Completely.
That's really what it is. And it's clearly an amazing thing to go through. And I'm stoked to have your perspective and your experience and sharing all this with us. I love it. And I think it's going to be really helpful for people who are just new to this to hear, like, just keep going, keep it up, be patient with yourself and let this work and just trust the process.
Trust it. I mean, trust it. There we go. My Bluetooth is not being happy with me today. Definitely trust it, because it works. And I mean, to feel good all the time, it's pretty awesome.
Well, that's the thing. That's the other thing. Like I was going to say too, like when we were talking before, when I used to eat really crappy and drink a lot of alcohol and smoke a lot of cigarettes and all this, like I thought that stuff made me happy. And legitimately it did. It made my brain happy because it made my pleasure center of my brain go crazy with all the, the happy drugs that our brain naturally releases when we eat and drink those chemicals, right? But I was, happy. But what I didn't realize until I quit all of that was that I was either super happy or like down, super happy and down, super happy and down. And it was like this roller coaster. And when you trade in like pleasure, for joy, you might not get as happy, but you're not going to get low either. And so it just becomes this steady, like, life is okay. Life is good. Life is enjoyable. Life is, and it's quieter. Like, it gets quieter. The noise, it's not so noisy almost in a weird way. I could explain it better if I, but just that's just like, for me, it's very obvious. It's not noisy. It's just, oh, okay, it's all right. And I don't think, I might not ever get that burst of happiness that I got from being, at work a long day and coming home with a big glass of wine and a cigarette. Like, I might not ever feel that bump of happiness, but man, I am going to, not feel that low when I wake up the next morning either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have to remind myself of what the next day was, because I would get food hangovers just as much as I would get wine hangovers.
Especially with sugar, know? Yeah. And I found, and the healthier you get, the more you find that will happen. Like, if you eat really healthy and then you do eat something with sugar the next morning, like, I'm like, I have a legitimate like hangover. Like, I have a headache. It's so weird.
Yeah, food hangovers were back then way worse than my alcohol hangovers. And it was, binge eating and just eating. I mean, we'd go out for like amazing dinners and then I'd come home and have a second dinner. Yeah. The words first, second, and third dinners, or first, second, and third breakfast, first, second, and third lunch were real words in my world. And, that was really unhealthy. They don't, now there's, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then there's, healthy snacks in between. And, when I shoot, I definitely eat a little bit more right before a shoot to gain some energy. And it's just all a balance. It's a really happy, healthy balance. And I agree with that. I would get this like giddy, insane happiness when I drank, but I don't know that that's a happiness that was a normal happy. And I don't know that I ever want to get that happy, because I felt like it was a forced happiness.
It was a fake happiness, and it really wasn't coming from you. It was coming from that stimulant.
Exactly.
And so your brain isn't meant to have that, and my brain wasn't meant to have that. What we have now is like where we're meant to be. And that's why, like, so often, like, we level out, we even out. That's why I've heard of so many people, like, I've been able to like cut down on my antidepressant, or I've been able to get off from this medication. And of course, like you were saying in the beginning, and I think it's really important, like, eating a plant-based diet isn't going to cure everything. Like, it's not a miracle thing. It's not a miracle pill.
Yeah.
Right. But it definitely evens people out. I mean, it just has to, because you're removing all those chemical stimulants in processed crappy food.
It does. I did, and something I didn't mention in the beginning, I did have what's called a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, which is like a mini stroke. I had it in August, and I still hear from my doctor that had I not done this, I probably would have had a full stroke. And I'm pretty much in the clear. I do have some neurological funkiness going on, but I constantly remind myself of that. And I mean, that puts a big smile on my face, knowing that I'm here, present, I'm doing well. I do have to have blood work and things like that checked very often, but I mean, they still like kind of look at me like, you're kind of a freak of nature. Like, and my doctor, I mean, I have Kaiser as health insurance, and Kaiser is very, very, very into being proactive, and they very much so support a plant-based diet, and they're very stoked about what I've done, and my doctor loves when I come in, and she's always like, yay!
Oh, that's great. It's so nice to have a supportive doctor.
It is. Even the cardiologist is like, you're my healthiest patient. She's like, one of my youngest, but she's like, you're like my healthiest patient. She's like, I don't have any TIA patients that are doing what you're doing. She's like, this is so awesome. And I mean, she wants me to talk to other people, and I'm just not quite ready to get there.
Yeah. You have to take it at your own pace too. And you're still kind of like, this is your first year. You're still like, you should just be basking in this. And then eventually maybe you can share it, or, do whatever. But I know, like, for me, when I quit drinking and started eating really well, like, I didn't really talk about it at all until after the first year, because I really wanted to feel like really secure and solid in where I was before I even opened my mouth to anybody else.
I'm learning to take care of myself before I take care of others. And that's something I've really never done. And that's huge. It almost makes me want to cry, because that's really big for me. Really, really big.
Oh, well, I wish I could give you a big hug right now. Yeah. And I'm just so happy. Just thank you again for opening up and sharing your experience, because I really do think that people sometimes need a little push or just need a little bit of inspiration to keep going or to get started. And it is such a beautiful journey, and everybody's journey is so different. That's the other thing. Like, everybody starts out from a different place and go through different things depending on their relationship with food and their health issues and like how fucked up they are about diets. And it's just like, it's different for everybody, but it's just such a beautiful process, and I can just see it in you. You're just radiant and alive and healthy and beautiful and lovely. So I'm just really like so happy for you.
Yeah, I don't ever want to be that person I was, and not for the weight, but for how unhealthy I treated my body. And it's the weight was a part of it, but there were so many other things I did to my body that made it unhealthy. Just so many things. And now it's like I have this power. I have this power to control myself, and it's really cool. And getting yourself under control is like step one of leading a happy, healthy life.
Yeah. Amen. Yes. All right. Well, that's the perfect place to end. I love it. Thank you again. Okay. Thanks, Katie.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.